Humanity was called a system error until one woman activated a crystal that awakened the star's memory. We didn't destroy the enemy, we retrained the universe to accept error as a formula for life. When the void returned, it didn't face an army, but a choir of unpredictable minds rewriting the laws of entropy. But even light needs balance. To avoid becoming gods, we became gardeners of the dawn. And when the darkness whispered, "You only delayed the silence," humanity replied, "Delay is life." Stay with us to find out how the story ends, and don't forget to subscribe. North American dawn glazed the ruins of Chicago in burnished copper when Elisa Wong climbed out of the metro shaft, too fast for her own footsteps to echo. 5 years had passed since the Galactic Consortium, orbiting in judgment, decreed humanity a predatory cognitive deviation and placed Earth under external trusteeship. 5 unbroken years of occupation had turned skyscrapers into mirrored corrals for alien machinery and the most stubborn people into half-mythical self-learning anomalies. Today, Elisa carried a relic that crossed the line of myth, an oblong crystal the hue of thunderstorm violet, latticed inside with circuits of living light. It had been pried from a Lithian convoy at terrible cost, and sensors now recorded lunacy. The nearer the crystal came to a human, the higher the flare of frequencies unknown to consortium spectrographs and uninterpretable by the Lithians themselves. 100 meters down, where Headquarters 7 occupied 3 old redline cars spliced to cargo pods, Captain Yen Rudenko, once a Ukrainian infantry major, now an unofficial coordinator of the resistance, waited beside floodlit schematics. "Elisa, did you find our miracle?" She laid the crystal atop a makeshift table cobbled from armor plates. Violet light ballooned, comm racks clicked, screens fuzzed, and in the radio booth coils vibrated like harp strings. "It's reacting," muttered Techmark Rios, rebooting a spare console. "To you, Doctor." Elisa brushed the facets with 2 fingers. Inside her skull locks slid open, 10 in a single breath, each tumbling into the next. She watched months of failed cognitive anomaly equations snap into latticework solutions, revealing an interface to the universe she'd only sensed in nightmares. "It's a key," she whispered, "but not a padlock's key, more like a doorway's." Within 3 hours, using captured consortium relays, the bunker pieced together a mosaic of terror. In 18 days, the occupiers would activate an equalizer, gravitational resonance nodes stretching from orbital pylons to continental anchors. Goal: smother the neural waves that made humans learn too fast. Irony: final synchronization required human respiratory signatures near the device's core. Yen's jaw tightened. "We infiltrate Citadel Zenith, their command monolith above the Carpathians. That's where it lives." The team assembled by dawn. Omar said, former USAF pilot who once crash-landed a 5-ton drone in a wheat field and stole it back. Legion, cybernetic engineer who taught 6-wheeled mining bots to plant explosives. Sophie Diop, linguistic savant whose on-the-fly decrypts had saved entire cells. Crossing the skeletal remains of Europe took 8 days. Automatic Pharrellian sentries, glass craters from failed uprisings, and blood-rusted drones marked the way, yet something curious happened. Whenever the crystal hung against Elisa's chest, it glowed brighter near buried architect relics. Artifacts of a vanished race that consortium files only mentioned in redacted whispers. The Citadel loomed like a black diamond held up by magnetic pylons. Beneath its belly sat 6 cargo apertures, each guarded by motion, heat, and neural harmonic scans. Rudenko guessed right. They keyed on kinetics, not consciousness. If the crystal truly interfaced telepathically, maybe it would fool the gates. Elisa closed her eyes, feeling voices of the camp align into a single chord. The bulkhead shuddered, petals of alloy retracted, exposing an elevator shaft. A mental handshake, Sophie breathed, logging the glyphs that rippled across the walls. Not just tech, intent. At the core hung a sphere the size of a cathedral, ringed by 6 superalloys. A hologram of Earth hovered above the Atlantic, equalizer humming like distant bees. Lee spliced his decoder, and alien characters scrolled like water. Elisa understood them instantly. "Every calculation assumes we're in error," she murmured. "But the crystal proves the opposite. Boost our cognition and quantum stress drops. We're the universe's anti-entropic patch." Omar primed demolition charges. Elisa stopped him. "No bombs. Rewire it. Let the array amplify us instead of silencing us." 2 Lithians and a Craxian officer burst in, weapons raised. Violet flame flared. Time thickened like honey. The intruders froze, thought scraping the inside of a glass jar. "Leave," Elisa told them without words, "while choice remains." They fled, shackles of indoctrination fracturing under a pulse of newborn biology. Lee finished rewiring. Yin synced field transmitters. Around the globe, at the instant the equalizer should have become manacles, it roared like sunrise. A wave lit every human cortex, unlocking dormant matrices. On street corners and rubble piles, people blinked as alien schematics blossomed in their heads: energy cells, syntactic calculus, starship blueprints. Drones spiraled dead from the sky, their algorithms outguessed by teenagers. Within 24 hours, supply lines folded. Within 36, the consortium's tactical encyclopedia felt stale against human improvisation. On day 3, the consortium Presidium begged for truce in the shattered Valdae observation dome. 8 species arrived, jittering with dread. We feared you'd trigger the ancient darkness, the Craxian envoy confessed. Prophecies. Your crackdown triggered it, Yin snapped, but Elisa raised a hand. The darkness is already awake, she said, feeling its footsteps in the gravity hiss. Architects built us to out-evolve entropy. Give us the stars, and we'll keep them burning. Thus formed the Accord of Returning Light. The occupiers ceded infrastructure. Earth vowed to man the frontier when the darkness came calling. Next day a captured, upgraded cruiser, Dawn Warden, surfaced through Pacific clouds, engines singing an overtone that sounded suspiciously like hope. Elisa watched from a cargo bay porthole. The crystal glowed against her sternum. Behind her, Sophie read reports of Brazilian schoolkids rewriting quantum gravity, Kenyan farmers forging hydrogen arc converters because they saw how. We're changing the rules, Sophie said. We're restoring them, Elisa answered, sensing the remote cosmic predator pause, recalibrate, realizing that a spark planet had ignited brighter than its cyclical charts allowed. History unrolled now without rubrics or pauses, a single uninterrupted current, and humankind, once self-crowned pinnacle, finally understood they had only reached the threshold. Ahead lay not merely the repulsion of darkness but the construction of a light meant to outshine stellar course. 6 weeks after the Accord of Returning Light, orbital yards that had once bristled with consortium drop barges now rang with the clang of human voices. Where drones had ferried slaves, former captives welded nacelles of pulsar steel, guided by schematics that unfolded inside their thoughts like self-writing blueprints. The first Aurora-class slip, frigate, Bright Nomad, rolled from its berth trailing ribbons of ion mist, a ritual thousands of volunteers watched from the Sinai Desert through makeshift telescopes. Children cheered. Elders wept at machinery that whispered in 3 languages, English, Swahili, and a newly emergent architect syntax no ear could pronounce yet every awakened mind understood. But exhilaration came laced with omens. Elisa Wong and Captain Yin Radenko felt them whenever they linked to the violet key now embedded in Aurora's NAV throne. Quiet pulses of wrongness rippled through subspace, stars hiccuped in spectroscopy, pulsars dragged beats, and Lagrange dust took on fractal alignments that spelled a single ideogram, an inverted spiral, the architect glyph for devourer. During the second week of Aurora's shakedown run, astrophysicists in the Andes registered a black filament threading out of the galactic halo, swallowing background radiation in a cone half a light-year wide. Analysts compared it to the void presence in ancient records and reached consensus. The cosmic predator stirred centuries ahead of prophecy. Elisa convened a council in Earth's polar sky station Argus 1, inviting all 8 consortium races, not out of courtesy but necessity. Representatives arrived uneasy, escorted by human fighter squadrons that still bore scorched paint from reclamation battles. Craxian mandibles trembled at the memories of their capitulation. Lithian crystals refracted guilt. The Ferellian envoy kept gills moist with a portable mist halo. At the amphitheater's heart the violet crystal hovered within a magnetic cradle, pulsing to the rhythm of every human seated nearby. Elisa projected telemetry, a hollow map of the Milky Way where a wedge of darkness advanced like oil across silk. The void's spearhead will intersect consortium space in 14 months, she said. Its leading edge is already lofting embers, proto-feeders that consume energy gradients. Our numbers alone can't plug that gulf. A murmur of resignation spread until a low, sonorous voice cut it. High Elder Tanyo, granite-skinned leader of the urn, rose slowly, for arms folded. Your species, Dr. Wong, unlocked potentials our prophets dismissed as legend. Will those gifts scale beyond a single star? Elisa met Yen's gaze. They had debated the same question behind soundproof bulkheads. Human abilities multiplied in crowds, collective intuition, translingual empathy, incident bursts of telekinesis, but they also produced side effects. Migraines, flash synchrony where hundreds might freeze mid-gesture sharing unscheduled visions. Scaling such biology to fleets risked chaos. We can amplify, but we need architecture, Elisa answered. The architects left containment engines across the spiral arm, 3 we've repurposed as beacons anchoring a quantum cage. We suspect there are more, forming a lattice, or what remains of it. Ferellian delegate Solmir fluttered membrane fingers. You propose rekindling technology that cost its creators their existence? We propose finishing the structure they died incomplete, Yin corrected. But first we must locate nodes and feed them the one signal the void cannot digest, sentient unpredictability. That phrase, sentient unpredictability, entered protocols as Delta Flux. Operation Lattice Awake launched with 6 Aurora-class frigates, 2 Urn bulwark carriers, and a salvage contingent of Lithian shard tugs. At its helm, Elisa as Lattice Architect, Yin as Expedition Marshal, Sophie Diop heading Semantic Decipherment, and Omar piloting the flagship Bright Nomad. Legion oversaw engineering along with a consortium of eager cadets whose neural clapboards rewired faster than his consoles. Their first waypoint lay in an uncharted micronebula beyond Deneb, an ocean of opalescent gas outgassing from a rogue planet shattered millennia earlier. Sensors flagged an anomaly, a negative mass spine resembling a rib cage 30 kilometers long. Closer inspection revealed it to be an incomplete containment strut, dormant but intact. Boarding teams found hallways sized for humans, proof architects modeled Earthborn physiology long before hominids chipped obsidian. In the central vault stood a coffin-tall obelisk humming faintly in the presence of the crystal key. It accepted Elisa's palm print as if expecting her, then extruded data rods of hard light containing star vectors to 7 sibling nodes. Excitement spiked, and so did danger. Barely had the fleet secured the obelisk when hunter drones blitzed from nebular haze. These were scintillates, biotech predators the consortium once used for border policing apparently hijacked. Their chitin gleamed with new etchings, the inverted spiral. Sophie's quick decrypt showed remote control signals piggybacking on architect subband frequencies. Battle in colored mist forced humanity's new reflexes to lethal test. Omar banked bright nomad through coral corridors of gas. Lee repurposed containment strut field coils into magneto-lances, shredding scintillate armor. Yet even as drones fell, Elisa sensed something watching through their camera eyes. Tasting human improvisation. The message was clear. The void, half asleep, still possessed proxies. Weeks blurred into treasure hunts, each node deeper in contested space. The second site lay at a pulsar's magnetar twin, accessible only during a 42-second comm between radiation knives. The third hid beneath ioscale volcanic storms. Every capture amplified delta flux across Earthkind. Farmers on Terra Nova predicted weather by gut. Infants on Kerala's orbital nursery formed choir-like micro-telepathy. Artists painted four-dimensional shadows no alien optic could parse. But strains mounted. Crew dreamscapes merged. Officers awoke reciting unknown stanzas. Sophie documented the phenomenon as mind-lensing, a spontaneous overlay of conscious streams. Helpful in battle, perilous in navigation. Sleep schedules staggered, but psychological seemed stretched. During translation to Node 4, coordinates within a sepsis of collapsed dwarf stars, Yan's shuttle vanished midfold. Instruments recorded a hiccup, probability 0.07 seconds withheld then returned, minus the shuttle. Elisa felt the absence like tendon snap. The crew's shared network convulsed. Omar snapped to damage control, Lee throttle drives to hard stop. Emerging in starless dark, bright nomad sensors painted a corridor of space-time twisted into Mobius inversions, the signature of a void ember nest. At its throat, holding the missing shuttle in temporal stasis, loomed an obsidian petal array reminiscent of Citadel Zenith but darker, dripping event horizon sparks. And carved along its midrib glowed glyphs not of the void but human script, Iterum. Shock rippled. Iterum Initiative, mythic cult said to have dissolved during Earth's uprising, had evidently fled occupation, stealing architect code. Elisa's heart clenched. If Iterum harnessed delta flux without its ethical moorings, they could hatch a local singularity, a false dawn void might exploit. A stealth insertion launched under radio silence. Sophie, Lee, and a 6-man ranger detail cut through carbon steel pedals into a cathedral lined with humans wired into lattice pods. Eyes blank, minds locked in infinite recursion loops. Their delta flux siphoned by Iterum priests wearing neural crowns of spinning sigils. At the altar, Marshal Yin, alive, suspended mid-breath, neural field siphoned. Opposite him stood Magister Reese Caro, ex-consortium collaborator, now robe-clad zealot. Earth ascends yet chains itself to cosmic maintenance chores, Caro intoned when Elisa confronted him via comm relay. We will not serve as galactic janitors. We will become the silence that replaces hunger. He triggered a failsafe. Containment pedals began folding in gravitational collapse, threatening to feed a mini-void. Lee had seconds. He routed architect flux through the violet key. Sophie used mind-lensing to pulse a multi-voice PSA directly into Iterum captives, awakening empathy dormant beneath indoctrination. One by one they ripped out cables, breaking the siphon. Collapse halted. Pedals froze. Caro, denied martyrdom, leapt into the embryonic singularity, swallowed by his own ambition. Rangers hoisted Yin from the pod. Heartbeat returned. But aboard ship, medics registered delta flux turbulence. Rescuing dozens of half-activated humans spiked psychic resonance beyond safe thresholds. The crew risked cascade seizure. Elisa ordered a quiet lattice, global med-induced microcoma for all awakened individuals aboard. For 12 hours frigates drifted idle while onboard AIs managed life support. When consciousness rebooted, network load stabilized but left a sobering lesson. Delta flux required governance as much as oxygen. Upon return to consortium space, politics frayed. The Ferellian Senate, unnerved by Iterum fiasco, demanded an awakening quarantine. Earned strategists lobbied for compulsory human officers in every frontier garrison, ostensibly to monitor flux metrics. Though critics called it soft annexation. Earth's Provisional World Council splintered. One faction, led by Admiral Harrison, urged deeper collaboration to finish the lattice, whatever the risk. The other, Sovereign Earth, feared external dependency and preached terra-centric development before cosmic policing. Protests erupted outside Nairobi's space hub where rations remained scarce. Some blamed resources diverted to Starforges. Yin, still recovering, convened a summit streamed to every colony, starting with a hard confession. We are evolving faster than politics can track. Without shared ethic, delta flux will devour us from within long before the void arrives. He proposed the Equilibrium Charter, tenets drafted with consortium philosophers, Ferellian ethicists, and Lee's cyberlogic. Every awakened human pairs with a countermind. an alien partner trained to provide dialectic grounding, preventing flux feedback loops. All architect node activations require quorum vote, human plus non-human. No single polity may field more than 2 flux-compatible dreadnoughts without cross-crewing. Iterum survivors enter rehabilitation enclaves where flux use is supervised and narrative indoctrination dismantled. Debate raged, but data from Iterum disaster silenced hardliners. Charter ratified by narrow margin. 2 months later, the final known node awaited activation in Intergalactic Gulf, a halo world with no star, only residual photon rain from ancient collisions. Architect cartouches called it Silent Seed. Probes found its core still warm, a planetary heart forged into a quantum bell meant to ring across dark matter veins. The joint fleet approached cautiously. Bright Nomad earned bulwark harbor of stones, Pharrellian mist carrier, Lithian shard tugs, and a contingent of sovereign Earth skeptics aboard battleship Independence. Charter demanded cross-crew. Tensions simmered. Omar now shared helm with Lithian navigator Shard Glim, Elisa's science console shadowed by Pharrellian empath Kurrel. Planetfall revealed a city of glass vines, each tower a tuning fork. At the epicenter, a well plunging to liquid quantum foam awaited a single input phrase. Elisa felt words blossom inside. We guard until dawn repeats. She spoke them. Obelisk shards resonated. The planet began to hum. But the void had learned timing. In less than an hour, dimensional shear tore open above the surface. Black lances tipped with scintilled fractal plating, commanded not by drones, but by an organic warbrain. A mile-long polyhedron of negative space, the architect records called First Maw. Brightness fled as if snuffed. Charter fleets scrambled. Independence broke formation. Its captain, a sovereign Earth ideologue, attempted a solo missile alpha strike, ignoring guidance. Missiles passed through First Maw like fish through water. Warheads disassembled into inert dust. First Maw retaliated with a silent beam. Independence simply erased, leaving flash after images on retinas. Panic rippled. Delta Flux and crew minds spiked toward chaos. Yen called countermind pairs to grounding stations. Humans linked with alien counterparts, sharing breath patterns. Instability damped, cohesion restored. Lee proposed a daring gambit. Invert the planetary bell's frequency to resonate with First Maw, forcing a partial phase lock to buy seconds. Risk, planet might implode. Elisa calculated odds, felt the architect key pulse ascent. They executed. Harmony of doom rang across the vacuum. A low C note that made bones vibrate. First Maw paused, edges warping under counter-vibration. Omar slammed thrust, flying Bright Nomad straight through its stuttering flank, deploying thousands of nanobeacons encoded with charter ethics, turning Delta Flux into algorithmic virus. Parasite floods of unpredictability tore at Maw's event surfaces, interior derailed into pattern oversaturation. The void fragments screeched across psychic channels. Elisa harnessed crew network, hurling a mental image. Humanity planting crops on lunar soil, a child drawing constellations, a Craxian mechanic laughing with a Terran poet. Mundane and extraordinary in a single breath. Maw fissured along invisible seams, dissolving into vapor of unmanifest probabilities. Silent Seed survived though fissured. It now pulsed autonomously, antiphase to void tides, sending shockwaves of stabilizing resonance out across dark matter conduits. Fleet sensors recorded void advance, slowing by measurable fractions. Not victory, but a foothold. Back home, Earth mourned independence, yet hailed the charter. Sovereign Earth movement fractured. Some members converted to collaborative zeal, others retreated nihilistic, rumored to liaise with Iterum purists. Intelligence flagged potential insurgency, but for now the planet exhaled. On a rainy Tokyo evening, Elisa addressed a global forum via Sky Holos. Architects seeded us for one purpose: outcreate decay. That burden is now delight. We will not become gods. We will remain gardeners. Of stars, of stories, of each other. Children across continents repeated the new motto in mixed tongues, Guardians of Dawn. Farmers integrated Craxian hydro loops. Artisans built earthquake flex towers along Pacific rims. Classrooms practiced mind lensing with countermind drills, turning learning into concerts. Yet at Arc Telescope Array L5, a midnight operator logged a final anomaly. Beyond Silent Seed, deeper than Halo Fringe, a triad of inverted spirals spun into existence, each the size of Earth's moon. Telemetry cut with a single phrase encoded in architect glyphs, but modified. Third mouth awakes. The operator swallowed, forwarded data to Bright Nomad. Elisa closed her eyes, crystal thrumming under her collarbone. The lattice is only half sung, she murmured to Yen, who listened from infirmary. Dawn's guardianship has just begun. He answered with a weary grin. Then we write the next verse louder. Engines primed. Hulls sang return cadence. And somewhere in interstellar dusk the void, no longer monolithic but curious, shifted, confronted for the first time in epics by prey that answered entropy with symphony. The journey toward conditional part 3 accelerated, not with fear, but with the purposeful stride of a species that finally recognized its shape against the starbright canvas. Unpredictable, collaborative, incandescently human. 17 days after Silent Seed's toll rolled through dark matter veins, the deep space listening ring above Neptune registered an echo that no algorithm wished to translate. A triple pulse carrying the architect glyphs for third mouth awakes. In the command well of Bright Nomad, Elisa Wong stared at the squirming waveforms and felt the violet crystal flush scald hot against her chest. Yin Rudenko, his left arm still mending from iterum stasis pins, leaned close enough to read the telemetry. "We bought a pause, not a ceasefire," he muttered. The feed from the outer array sharpened. 3 negative space vesicles drifting at super-C speeds from beyond the galactic rim, their trajectories converging on Silent Seed's resonance line like predators triangulating a wound. Each vesicle dwarfed first Ma tenfold. Each flickered with internal storms of data-eating lightning. Forellian mathematicians coined them abyssal dynamo complexes. Sophie Diop ran the glyphs through semantic inversions and replied in a whisper nobody wanted recorded. The Void's next stage isn't single-mouth consumption. It's digestion through distributed engines. They intend to metabolize the lattice as fuel. Earth's Provisional Council demanded answers. The Consortium Senate pleaded for rapid deployment of Delta Flux Dreadnoughts. Sovereign Earth separatists blocked orbital foundries claiming charter clauses made humanity disposable. Amid chorused alarms, Elisa requested only 30 hours and absolute silence to commune with the architect nodes. Inside Argus One's Gravnull chamber, she connected Violet Key to the lattice. Mind lensing enfolded her in a multiverse of half-remembered architect memories. Stars hammered into tuning forks. Galaxies shepherded like migratory herds. Love songs encoded in neutrinos long after singers turned to dust. She asked the lattice how to parry 3 abyssal dynamos. The answer was not coordinates, but a feeling, like cold morning wind against ancient stone, and a single imperative: complete the choir. Choir, capital C, was the architect's term for their containment field's unfinished harmonic tier, a crown of 10 macroresonators never erected. Their schematics trailed off with hastily carved symbols meaning we ran out of time. Elisa pulsed inquiry. The lattice produced a tumble of star call signs, raw skeletal blueprints, and a warning that each resonator required eidolon matter, a form of probability solid plucked from the boundary of existence. No civilization in current records had ever isolated it. Omar laughed when Elisa briefed the bridge. "So we need to mine substance that lives half a second ahead of reality, forge 10 planet-sized instruments, stand them up before 3 planetary eaters cross the gate, and keep our politics from imploding?" "Essentially," she said. "Plus we'll have to do it where the void can't see us forming the net." Li Jun tapped the holomap. The Perseus Veil, nebular density, gravitational eddies, numerous dead architect shell worlds. Good visual interference. Yin agreed. High Elder Tan, you contributed earn rock forges. Lithians pledged photonic scaffolding. Reluctant Sovereign Earth jury-rigged their own Titan yards under charter oversight. The project was christened Threshold Choir, 10 macroresonators, each nicknamed after Terran musical modes: Ionian, Dorian, Phrygian, etc. But eidolon matter remained myth. Sophie scoured iterum texts and found notes describing mirrorfold wells, pockets where architect weapons had once ruptured possibility, leaving seams of semi-coherent, unreal. Consortium archives pinpointed one such well, the Aurignac Chasm, a crevasse stretching halfway through a rogue dwarf planet in the Oort fringe. The catch: the chasm birthed spontaneous improbability flares that erased any probe within minutes. Only Delta Flux synchronized pilots might navigate. Elisa volunteered, Yin insisted on co-captaincy. They boarded Bright Nomad refit with triply redundant heuristic shields and mental dampers. Forellian empath Rel joined as countermind. Lithian shard Glim integrated navigational entanglers. As the ship dove into the chasm, hull cameras caught reality shedding like snakeskin. Corridors elongating then snapping back, engine roars arriving before thruster ignition. The crew sang grounding patterns. Gray verses melded with urn-based drones. Each lyric stabilized a meter of corridor. Near the chasm's core they found eidolon deposits, translucent prisms flickering between being and maybe. Automated arms failed. The crystals dissolved at electronic touch. Yin reached bare-handed. Every nerve screamed cold fire, but the shard solidified, resonating with his awakened brain. Over 6 hours they harvested 20 tons, just enough for 2 resonators, but probability storms crescendoed. On the climb out, 3 crew members blinked out of linear memory and reappeared with hair grown 3 centimeters. That variance alone threatened ship integrity. Omar redlined engines, bursting from the well seconds before it sealed itself in a spasm of unreality. Back in Perseus Vale, forges roared. Eidolon ingots refused standard smelters. They sang at frequencies that merged quarks. Shard Glim engineered a photonic lattice to coax them. Lee wove gravitational pinch coils. Resonator Ionian rose first, a 900-kilometer hoop shimmering sapphire, anchored to asteroid triplets. It hummed low G, a note thick as honey. As choir sections multiplied, deltaflux surges radiated. Human crews suffered echo seizures. Non-human partners absorbed feedback but reported identity bleed, dreaming in English, waking in Forellian currents. Charter's countermind protocol stretched thin. New algorithms throttled group lensing to bursts. 3 months in, Phrygian assembly stalled after a mining hull exploded. A sovereign Earth saboteur convinced humans should keep Eidolon monopoly and let Void purge rival species. The act killed 50 Lithians and risked shattering consortium trust. Yin demanded an open tribunal broadcast galaxy-wide. The saboteur, a pale engineer named Clark Monroe, defended. We ascend by fire, not bureaucracy. Elisa confronted him. Ascension without empathy repeats architect arrogance. They died proving it. The verdict: exile to a mirror-fold penitentiary, monitored by counterminds. The broadcast stiffened cooperation but underscored fragility. Meanwhile, the abyssal dynamos barreled on, tearing void corridors wider. Telescopes watched constellations wink out. Silent seeds pulse slowed as dark feeders leached harmonics. Analysts calculated choir completion plus lure window. They needed all 10 resonators active within 40 days. Dorian construction revealed a surprise. Beneath a shelled planetoid, dormant architect servers contained patterned caches, psalm codes meant to prime choir startup. They required simultaneous human-alien recitation, hearts synchronized to 68 beats per minute. Sophie and Kerr-Rel trained choirs across allied fleets. Earned bass throats, Craxian click rhythms, human alto leads, recordings beamed to every yard. Yet Dorian's ignition spawned side effect. A beacon spike visible far beyond Perseus. The Void's vesicles shifted vector early, 34 days out. Build schedule collapsed into tree-off. Engineers cannibalized personal cabins for scaffolds. Soldiers ferried ingots in unpressurized sleds. Children on Mars telepathically debugged coil algorithms. Ionian through Mixolydian stood ready when the dynamos breached Nebular Veil. They loomed like triple black suns rimmed with turquoise fire. Each birthed shoals of scintillate fractals, now sporting Eidolon armor stolen from failed probes. Fleet Command issued battle stations. The plan: lure dynamos into choir's heart and fire harmonic cage before vesicles overloaded the lattice. Bright Nomad and earned Bulwark Harbor of Stones volunteered as flares, broadcasting architect psalms at maximum. Elisa stood on Nomad's hologrid, singing syllables older than mammalian lineages. Dynamos responded, curiosity or hunger. Their gravitational wakes shredded gas into cyclones. At 0+6 minutes, a shoal pierced Nomad's starboard flank. Omar bled thrusters to compensate. Yin led damage teams while telefield surgeons sealed breaches with thought-hardened foam. The flagship limped but stayed luminous. Choir Center, a 10-pointed crown, shivered as masses entered killbox. On Kerr-Rel's count, fleets locked transmitters. Ionian light cascaded to Aeolian root. Resonance churned quantum sea. Void matter warped, trying to phase skip, but Eidolon rims froze constants. Dynamos hammered cages with entropy storms. Shields collapsed on Phrygian and Lydian nodes. Mixolydian teetered. Engineers routed deltaflux personal networks into structural dampers, effectively lending consciousness as welders. Pain lanced mines. Many collapsed. Countermines dragged them clear and took their place, proving the charter's worth. Final sequence demanded Elsa's direct neural governance at Choir Nexus Spire. She climbed grav ladder into pulsing chamber where Eidolon veins met. Violet key fused with a heart socket. Her senses expanded beyond stars until she perceived the dynamos as hungry infants gnawing lattice bars. They spoke, not in words but in inevitabilities. Heat, death, entropy, silence after song. She answered with kaleidoscopes of birth cries, laughter, gray Tuesday afternoons, unpredictable love. The choir translated her reply into math burned across spacetime. Dynamos convulsed, their event margins knitting inward. Choir rings brightened to nova glare. Each vesicle compacted, compressing stolen starlight into singular specks flung beyond relativistic horizon. In microseconds, the Perseus Veil knew peace again, eerie, dew quiet. But the strain shattered Ionian and Dorian rings, fragments spiraled. Lattice integrity held 84%. Enough, said architect failsafes, for stable slumber cycle of 70,000 years. Elisa sagged beside the fused key, heartbeat ragged. In her mind, the void's echo retreated, whispering identical epitaphs. You postpone the hush, never nullify it. She answered silently, postponement is life. Aftermath rippled like dawn through polity nets. Consortium worlds held vigils for lost Lithians. Urn stone singers carved memorial constellations visible with naked eyes. Earth thrummed with conflicted pride. Sovereign Earth dissolved, its extremists marginalized by the spectacle of cooperative survival. The Equilibrium Charter evolved into the Confluence Pact, permanent cross-species governance of choir, joint stewardship of mirror-fold wells, and a moratorium on solo eidolon experimentation. Humans agreed to limit delta flux proliferation. Children's training would include countermind empathy from the outset. At Silent Seed, Yin officiated dedication of the Independence Garden, honoring the Dreadnoughts sacrificed by hubris. Sophic lilies, bioengineered to glow with harmonic pulses, lined the crater. Former saboteur Clark Monroe, perched behind mind-dampening field, laid the first stone of repentance. Months later, Elisa sat on a balcony of Havenspire, overlooking Perseus clouds where choir fragments glittered like wind chimes. Omar practiced slow barrel rolls with cadet pilots in rebuilt Nomad 2. Lee taught Craxian technicians to modulate hunger waves into energy pearls. Carell and Sophie toured planet schools promoting bilingual lullabies tuned to 68 BPM. Elisa lifted the violet crystal, now dull, its charge diffused into choir. Without it, humanity would need living keys, themselves. That night she published an open letter translated into every galactic tongue. We are the unexpected stanza in the universe's long equation. We will revise the line each dawn, knowing darkness edits, but song persists. On distant sensors, astronomers still tracked minor void eddies nibbling at dwarf galaxies. But charts projected decades, even centuries of reprieve. Plenty of time to plant, to listen, to disagree without annihilation. Yin joined her as Perseus' horizon flushed teal. 70,000 years? He teased. Reminder alarm a week prior? Said it now, she joked, but had option to snooze. Then, softer, we'll be memory specs by then. But maybe our descendants won't need keys. Maybe they'll be doors. The balcony lights dimmed as planetary nightshade rose. Choir rings in the distance pulsed like heartbeat constellations, and for the first time since Earth awoke, the galaxy exhaled not in dread but in tentative harmony. An unfinished melody inviting voices yet unborn to carry the theme long after even Architect Stone remembers only the echo of morning.